Tips on how wives can honor and support successful/busy husbands.
Well, negotiation is a big deal. Negotiating what you need and what your husband needs. And so one of the things to discuss is if either you or your husband are going out to work every day, you have to discuss how you would like to be greeted when you come home at night. That way you set the evening off right, and you're less likely to have conflict at night. But and these things can't be, they just aren't just obvious. You actually have to discuss it. And that's the thing about marriages often, is the woman thinks the man should know why she's upset. But first of all, men aren't like that, so they won't know. But even if you were with another woman, if you don't tell her what you're upset about, she's not going to know either. And you know that. So why would your husband know? So which is even less likely, right? So you definitely have to say what you need. And really, I had to pay attention to Jordan and what he was doing to see, and at some point when I got arthritis in my thumbs and I couldn't do massages anymore, I spent 6 months just asking, what should I do next? What should I do next? Because it wasn't obvious to me what I might do. I'd been doing massages for, 25 years or something. And then I saw Jordan in the kitchen one day and I thought, he's a busy man. Maybe I could help him. Now, I could have thought of that years before that, but I didn't. But anyway, I did. I thought of it at that point, which I guess was the point I was supposed to think about that. And I asked him if he wanted some help.
Was this before 2016?
Yep.
Oh, what? When did
before.
Whoa, that's weird.
Yeah, I know. Just before, a week later, and I might be exaggerating, but not by much. He came downstairs and said something was bugging him. That, the people in his practice were complaining about political correctness, and now it was coming to the university with DEI, and he didn't know if he wasn't going to be able to keep his mouth shut for very much longer. And I said, why don't you say something publicly? What could happen? And so he went upstairs and made that video and released it on YouTube. And that afternoon, the house was filled with journalists, and it never stopped. And
That's weird.
That was very interesting because I was there. I had already changed my life and had become the person who was going to be supportive of him as my first job,
Sounds like God.
Doesn't
Very
it?
serendipitous, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Julian was there. Mm-hmm. Julian was home from university. He wanted to go take a programming course. He was going to go to California. And I said, why don't you come home, Julian? You're going to be working 16 hours a day. I'll cook for you. You won't have to do any of that. You can just work. And so he thought, yeah, okay, I'll come home. And of course, during that time was when that happened. But Julian was at home too, so he was on the phone. Julian was on the phone with reporters. I was on the phone with reporters. They were in our kitchen, in our foyer, outside our door, in cars.
Jeez.
They were everywhere, but he was there and I was there. And so we managed it. We managed that moment. And part of it was that we were present in the moment and there and did the next right thing. Because it could have been that it was so overwhelming that it never really was possible to get in touch with all the interviews and get the word out of what it was that he was doing. So, yeah, it could have been. So when you're in a relationship, it's really good to try to take an objective view of your lives and to see where you could tweak it and make it run a little better. Not maybe more efficiently in particular, but paying attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention. Just pay attention.
I think what occurred to me a couple days ago, it's funny this hadn't occurred to me before, maybe it has periodically, was that people are always, especially goal driven people, are always trying to live for what's next. But what you're doing every day is your life. Dad said this.
Yeah.
And it's crazy that you can almost get brainwashed or brainwash yourself into being like, well, as soon as I get to that goal, that's when my life starts. It's like, that's evil, right?
Yeah.
That is dangerous, right? So a couple days ago, I was like, no, we need to organize every day how we want it to look because this is our life now. I was like, and it's really good. So if we're doing things a little bit off, like that's just how it's going to be. We need to fix things now. And that, like, what I've learned from being in a like great marriage is you really have to talk about everything down to like the minute detail, like everything. Like you were saying, what do you want dinners to look like every day? What do the mornings look like? Who does what? How is the house kept clean? And I find scheduling extremely helpful for everything. Because then you don't have to argue about it. You don't have to think about it. And because we work from home too, it's taken a while because it's still early. We've been married for three years. So knowing like now is when we don't work. That's been really important because also before we were launching Peterson Academy, it was like we didn't really have the times where we didn't work, which was fine. You know, it's probably what happens when you're trying to launch something. But I was like, we have to make sure we don't miss out on things like family and each other too. You know, so scheduling has been very, very helpful. I think
we scheduled dates, right?
I know. I probably learned a bunch of that from you. I remember Dad had a calendar up on the fridge, or he taught us this. I just have this memory of a Google Calendar where it was like every half an hour scheduled. I think it was printed out in the
and we had
cupboard.
Sunday meetings too, and decided what jobs everyone would have for that week. And so, yes, you have to discuss everything. You have to
like
discuss everything
yeah.
and see if you are resentful about doing anything. And if you are, then you got to discuss it.
I think if you don't talk about it too, like the number of things you have to negotiate, even if they're little tiny things, like everything can be tiny, right? If you stop discussing and negotiating that, they stack up so quickly that you can drown yourself and it can kill relationships, like kill your soul. Like it's just so hard on you if you don't say what you want or what you need, or if you see something going on that bothers you, like say it.
Yeah,
or it's
just say
so
it.
poisonous.
Say it once. That's the thing, though. Say what you have to say once, and then know that you have put it out there, and you've done what you can do.
I don't know if I agree with that. I have to say things like 6 times to this guy. I love him, but it'll be like, Jordan, that really bothers me when you do X. You do something like that. Or say, can you put your phone down during dinner? You know, don't work. Don't work during dinner. Also, our dinner's so fast because mostly we eat meat. Like we inhale dinner. This isn't a big time suck. Like this is air frying steak and eating steak. It's like a 10-minute dinner. Don't be present, right? I have to, and I think it's his personality too. I have to mention it 3 times and then I have to yell about it.
So this is the thing that I was
That's
talking
a
about
him
at the very
problem, right?
beginning. I
That's
was
what you're
talking
trying to
about
say.
the Scarlet Beast and the Whore of Babylon, and he's 9-headed. He's a 9-headed monster, the beast, right? So he is not integrated, and he is praying to false gods everywhere, right? And so one of the things that can happen is that when you're at home, there can be competing desires. There can be competing desires. And you have to be very careful to recognize that the home is a place of communication and nurturing. It's not a place of business.
This brings me back to the working from home though.
Yeah.
Because when you have kids, this is the problem I've been having. Because you have kids, it's great that you're there. They always know mom's around the corner. And I really like that. But I think it's hard for a person, especially if they work online, to switch it off.
Yeah.
So I think
You might have to. You can
I think
put
we just
those
need a schedule.
Can't you switch it off on your computer?
No, I mean, there's things. All we'd have to do is just put the phones down, put the computers down between this period of time, this period of time.
Yeah.
We're getting there. It's just
That's
taken.
good.
Like
That's
we're
good.
fine. We've already sorted it out.
Yeah.
It's just taken 3 years to be like, oh, this is important. This is our lives right now, and then we're not as swamped trying to get a business off the ground and not be in like hordes and hordes of debt and say what we were going to do and things. So now that that's kind of out of the way.
Oh, when I'm talking about the whore of Babylon, like that is hedonistic, short-term gratification is what that story is talking about too. And that's not, that's not marriage. That's not a committed marriage. That is someone who has lost the narrative that it's a long-term committed relationship with humility and gratitude. And this is something that our society is suffering from more than individual marriages. People who are married at least are taking a stab at doing it.
Oh yeah,
the best
and
way
I mean,
they can.
You can't be perfect.
No,
like we're always aiming.
That's right.
Aiming up. You can't be perfect. No, we're in a great place. It's
Yes,
just fun.
you are.
It's just funny.
But it's interesting to see that how easily just even a few little things that aren't quite right
can impact you.
Yeah. So that's why you always have to be willing to take an objective look at things to see
and aim towards God.
Yep.
Like if you guys are aimed, and then at least you're both aimed in the right direction, and the ego doesn't get involved, pride doesn't get involved as much as it could, because it still does. Like people still make mistakes. We still make mistakes. And it's like, no, that's what I wanted. That wasn't like the greater good, sorry. But if you're both aimed in the right direction and it's not prideful, I mean, I don't know how you can negotiate otherwise. Otherwise it's just like an ego tug of war.
Yeah.
It's so hard.
Yeah. No, ever since you've been married and you've had this relationship, I don't worry about you at all.
Yay.
And so the worry, partly I think that comes from a parent whose kids are grown, is that they haven't realized their proper place in relationship to God. Once you realize that, at least you get it in the right perspective.